Hello and welcome to Robotics Assemble, a Saints Robotics production, and I'm your host, Nikhil. And today we have with us Aditya, our co-host, Aditya Shrey, and our feature for today, Delaney. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure. Delaney, do you want to start off? And then I'll go next.
You say yeah, sure, like you're gonna introduce yourself, and then you ask me. Okay, fine. I'm
I'm
Delaney.
volunteering for you.
Yes, I'm being voluntold to introduce myself, you guys. Yeah. So most of my experience has been on programming. I did that freshman year, and then sophomore year, I was the programming lead. And this year, I'm the treasurer. So yeah.
Freshman year and sophomore year, I was in business development. It's currently business, but it was business development, and I was business development lead in sophomore year, and now I'm the president, and I have some experience in imagery, but Nikhil definitely has more.
Yeah, so I, in freshman year, was just helping out with build, just a build member. And then in sophomore year, I was a control systems member. And this year, I'm actually control systems lead. And I have experience in like imagery and just like editing and stuff here and there, like our chairman video. But yeah, that's basically it. So yeah, we all have a lot of experience. We're all right now from Saints Robotics, and we're all becoming juniors, right? We're all juniors.
Correct, yeah.
And
Upperclassmen.
Except for our producer.
yeah,
Uh,
and today there's actually a hidden fourth member with us, and that's Meg, our producer and like audio engineer genius wizard. So Meg is actually like taking care of everything from the recording of the audio to like the video, and we're here today talking because Meg's hard work actually paid off. So yeah.
Yeah, Meg's an extremely talented and dedicated person. He's made this entire thing happen. And yeah, thank you, Meg.
Yeah,
Along
thank
with
you,
the
Meg.
rest of imagery.
Or like we like to call it, immegri. More
Nice
bad
one.
jokes on the way, guys.
Awesome.
Stay
This
tuned.
is not
There's
the
gonna be
end.
more.
Stay tuned. Way more bad jokes. All right. So I'm just gonna go over what we're gonna be talking about today. So first, intros. Okay, we just did that, and then now we're gonna be talking about why it's called Robotics Assemble instead of Saints Robotics Podcast or anything like that. And then we're gonna be talking about why you're listening to this, like why we have a podcast right now. And then finally, we're going to be just talking about some other outreach stuff and our sub teams and our future plans. So stay tuned because all of this talk is going to be super, super interesting, in my opinion, at least. But you guys should stay tuned. It'll be quite a ride. It
Not
will
your
be
opinion,
interesting.
it's a fact.
It is a fact. It'll be interesting. So let's just get on to our next segment on why it's called Robotics Assemble. Shrey, you named it. Why is it called Robotics Assemble?
I guess I did name it, but in freshman year, I can remember the senior admins, right? They all started off the club meetings by saying Robotics Assemble together. And as Delaney brought about when we were discussing earlier, it represents this unity our team had. And it was just a thrilling way to start the meetings and know that Robotics Assemble, we're all here together, assembling together. We'd end the meetings off, they would end the meetings off by saying Robotics break and ending off with a clap, and then we'd all disperse. But it was just so powerful. And I just felt like the podcast could resemble that, being a powerful platform.
Yeah.
How about you, Dylan? Do you have any thoughts on the name?
Yeah, it really was the fact that they would yell it at the very beginning of the meeting. Like everyone would just come in, start milling about, and then they would just shout it all together as one. We're still working on like the doing it together as one, especially virtually. They would all shout it, and it would grab your attention, of course. And it's just something that as a freshman I admired in the upperclassmen, and hopefully we can be that this year.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Because I remember being a freshman or a sophomore, you're eating your ramen, right? You're eating your ramen, vibing in the corner, and then randomly you hear 7,000 people say "Robotics Assemble" and then clap, and then you just look over and you're like, the meeting's starting. Now we can actually work on the robot instead of eating ramen. Of course, we still ate ramen, of course, but like,
just be
but
sure
now we're also
things to not spill in the Robo Rio: ramen, and of course metal shavings.
Yeah, you don't want any of those in there, or else it's gonna die. Everything's gonna die. But yeah. All right. Next. So why are we doing this podcast? Why is Robotics Assemble a thing? Who wants to talk about that? Delaney?
Sure. Yeah. So we just wanted to get some more outreach, just out there, and it's a good way for us to get to know the community, especially since we're still all at home. Just doing a podcast and putting it online, it's a good way for people to get to know us. Um, maybe some of our sponsors, if they just want to, they have a free 40 minutes, and just want to get to know us as people. Yes, we're going to be graduating soon, and hopefully, if the show lasts, you're going to have more hosts, more co hosts, and features. But it is a good way for you to get to know who's currently in robotics. It's a good way for other teams to get to know us, aside from competition. And it's also a good way for the incoming members to sort of get to know us. I think it would help a lot with recruitment, getting some of the new members to just sort of say, "Oh, these are cool people. I want to meet them," and then come to our robotics meetings.
Yeah.
In
So
some
like,
regards, oh, Nikhil.
oh, all right. Yeah, I was just gonna
Okay.
say like, the podcast is like it's ingrained into our club vision. That Trey, I think you were about to say.
I was going to talk about that and
Yeah,
other
yeah,
things, but I'll read off
yeah,
the
yeah,
club vision anyways.
yeah. What is our club vision, and how does the podcast really fit into
All
that club
right.
vision?
So the club vision is to empower and inspire members of all ages in our community to become involved in science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics through supportive and spirited competition. It took a long time for admin to get this club vision, but I know that we're all really proud and it really does encompass exactly what our team is about, Saints Robotics 1899. How our podcast relates to this club vision overall, even though it's not necessarily competition, it's still supportive and spirited. And we hope we can do this by emphasizing community and bringing other people from our community, right? And that's one of the biggest aspects of it, that we'll bring guests and talk to them. And this isn't just a platform for Saints Robotics, it's a platform for the robotics, the first community. And then empowering members of all ages. Everybody's invited to these podcasts to listen in, tune in, answer questions, email us, which Nikhil will reveal at the end. So you can contact us and we'll read it and we might talk about it in future podcasts. Then you've also got the aspects of STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, which is definitely talked about. And we'll talk about those concepts with other guests and with each other when we talk about robotics in general.
Yeah, one thing. Like I've heard of STEM, right? What's the difference between STEM and then STEAM?
I'm not going to read off STEAM again, but so the big
Yeah.
difference is the A, right? The A is added in STEAM and it's arts. And the reason why we've included that in our club vision rather than just having STEM is because we want to recognize the communications branch. Not only is robotics isn't only just building the robots, programming, building it, and CADing it, all of that stuff. It's also the communication efforts, right? So we've got a business team and an an imagery team. So those are the two big sub teams in communications which help us out. And those sub teams still do a large effort that contribute to our team. And to recognize them, we've included arts in teams. Yeah. And Delaney, do you want to talk about communication in
Yeah.
general too?
Well, art is the communication side of the team is literally how you're listening to the podcast. Without the imagery team, without Meg or the imagery team,
Imagery,
you
yes.
you wouldn't be listening to this podcast. And in the larger scope of things, communications is really, in my opinion, it's what gives Saints Robotics its identity. Without communications, we wouldn't have these cool T-shirts. We wouldn't have any of that cool merch that you're going to go and buy after this podcast.
Yes.
Um,
Buy our merch, guys. It's
um,
nice. We have Woody, flowers, what's tights, I think? Yeah, leggings and
stare,
socks.
stare passionately at the camera.
stare right into the camera.
You're gonna
Yeah,
buy it, right?
yeah,
All right. Yeah,
absolutely.
go
We're
on,
going to buy
Delaney.
it. Yeah, and they're they're the one. Communication is really how we interact with the outside world. Um, so yeah, it's how we
Yeah.
Yeah.
communicate. Imagine
It,
that.
it's it's a great like way of us really like um being something, right? Instead of being just those people at robotics camp, we are like this brand or like this team of people. Instead of just being like individuals, we like under the communication branch, we are like a togetherness, like a group.
It
And
brings
that's just Yeah,
It brings
it's
a sense of identity to the team, which is important. Without it, we're just building robots. But with communications, we're more than that. We can actually be a team. We can be represented in blue, even though this is an older shirt that doesn't have the same color logo or anything like that.
and
It's still the
this is
same,
not one. Yeah,
but it's still the same effort where we can represent each other because of arts, because of communications.
and it's really
In
because oh yeah, you go on. Yeah,
I was just you just brought up a thought. Um, in some sense, art is really conveying what it means to be human, right? So it's how we relate to each other on the most basic level, and it's how we share our interests about making robots for some of us, or imagery. It's how we share our interests with other people in a way that they can understand it. That's art.
Mhm. And we've been talking about imagery a little bit more, but business also falls into arts because it's expressing yourselves by communicating with the community too. By having these outreach of events, you're still doing arts to some extent, and you're communicating with the community. But you're ensuring that they are able to communicate with you and bring facts, and just you can understand them better and have a greater impact when you communicate with them. I said communicate too many times in that
Yeah.
sentence, but there we go.
Speaking of outreach, do we want to transition to our one of our most recent outreach events aside from the
yeah, because
podcast?
yeah, just like FYI, outreach is a way of us like connecting with our community, right? As Shreya and Delaney have said, it's a way in which we help our community because that is like a big thing that we like doing in Saints Robotics is where we like really want to push into like that community area, and that's where we talk about that's where we bring in this outreach event that we did called Isil or Interlake
Interlake
Saints
Soul.
Interlake
Interlake Saints
Soul
online learning experience.
online.
There we go.
Okay, I'm not
It's
the best
okay.
with acronyms.
Acronyms. Yeah. So, Delaney, do you actually want to talk about the history of ISIL? Starting off with CERT.
Yeah. So, Cirque was originally what we've done Cirque for a couple of years before my time as well, and that's SERC, Saints Engineering Robotics Camp, and that would be for both of these camps are for elementary schoolers where we just get them interested in engineering, and the original Cirque would be in person, and we would have them hands on building Lego robots, programming Lego robots, watching them drive around. Very engaging, very hands on, and not something you can really do. We could really do this year. So we still wanted to reach out to our community. We still wanted our presence to be known. We still wanted to empower and inspire young elementary schoolers to pursue STEAM. And so we got together, what, mid-April? Is
Yeah,
that right?
mid-April.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
around then. Yeah.
And we started thinking, okay, how can we still do this? And we came up with an acronym, Saints Online Learning Experiences. So it was done virtually, and we taught the kids how to use Scratch for Scratch programming. So yeah, it was slightly adapted, and we were actually able to reach out to many more people since this time it was free,
Yeah.
and people are still probably inside, not have much to do over the summer. So we had a lot of people sign up this
Yeah.
time.
And quick insight about like the outreach and advertising efforts. I believe we opened on like Sunday, but we had to close up the signups on Tuesday night. We had a meeting, an emergency meeting, we called it, for 30 minutes to an hour, and we had to decide that we had to ultimately close the signups and create a wait list because we had too many. And we realized that we would have to get other teachers, and we got other teachers from the Robototes. So thank you, Samamish Robototes, and they helped us out by teaching some of the classes, and that really helped us teach more children. And in total, I believe we impacted 103 students, reached out to them, and taught them. That's how many signed up. We also had a wait list, which we were unfortunately not able to teach, but we tried to do as many children as we could, still assuring quality teaching to the best we could.
Yeah. It's great. Our I really like our outreach team because we're able to really impact so many people like very quickly because that this entire ISIL thing was like created in like a couple months, right?
Hmm.
From April in like
Yeah, and
July
we
we were able
implemented
to
it by
like
the end of July.
yeah, so we just talked about it in April and then it was already implemented by July. So it was very fast turnover and I really like that.
And
So yeah,
and to be clear, for Isil, it wasn't necessarily only an outreach effort. We had so many different members from our team to work on this one project.
that's
Our
true.
team wasn't meeting as often, but we did meet every Saturday for 1 to 2 hours approximately, and then we just started planning. And then we also met beyond that with our smaller subgroups for the project. We had advertising, so we worked on the logo for the ICE Interlake Soul. We also worked on the flyers, the certificates. Then we also had the curriculum development, which definitely took a lot more time and a lot more thinking because that's what the PowerPoints and that's the Scratch classrooms that we would be using. So we definitely spent more time there. We also went through iterative process. We just went through each of the PowerPoints and made sure it was good with the mentors, with practices. We also had teacher training sessions. There were a lot of people involved with this big project. Also communicating to the parents and ensuring that was fine. Setting up the accounts for Scratch in the Google Classroom. There was a lot involved with this project.
Yeah, it was really a group effort in that outreach thing. And then we had like videos go up on the YouTube channel. We had like a lot of things that really like tried to bring everything together. Yeah, so it was really an entire um, team effort. And in that team, we're going to transition to our sub teams really. So what are our sub teams? Well, we have a engineering side, right? And we also have a media or like arts type side, communication side, and then we have an administrative side. You see, I'm part of the engineering side as control systems lead. So let's start off with administration. What is the administration administering right now?
Well, this week or last week, I'll say, since it's Monday today, we finished the club vision. We spent around a month thinking about it. We met a month earlier and had some ideas, but then we met a month later last week and we finalized the club vision, which I presented to you at the beginning. And it really did highlight it. And it's not like our club vision suddenly changed. It's just this club vision encompasses what we've already done in the past and serves it right. So it works well with what our team is. We wanted to find a club vision that represents us and not wouldn't necessarily change us all of a sudden. We also had core values, but we settled that a little while ago, which I'll read off for the sake of being able to. Our core values acronyms, we love acronyms here, is ICE-GIFT, which doesn't really mean anything, neither did Interlake Soul or CIRC. But ICE-GIFT is the acronym for core values, interdependence, creativity, empowerment, growth, inclusivity, family trust. This week, the meeting hasn't started. It's going to happen in the afternoon. We're actually going to start having leadership trainings, which we're going to open to the entire team to join in. And we'll spend like 30 minutes on Monday and Friday just going over how to be a lead in the team. Not necessarily, you don't necessarily need to have the position to be a lead, and just uh, bringing those skills about. And our vice president, Kevil, is going to be doing that. Delaney, do you want to talk about the budget?
Yeah, so as treasurer, I had a lot of fun with spreadsheets recently. And so it was figuring out, especially with, we're probably not going to be building a second robot, or we didn't budget for one this year. So a lot of it is figuring out how much do you think we're going to spend. Um, so that's mainly what budgeting for us on SaintsRobotics looks like.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and it's quite a bit less than last year because we aren't really building anything, and we don't even know if we can meet
Mhm.
at this moment.
There's just
So
so much uncertainty with knowing what we would have to purchase, especially in terms of the
exactly.
robot and competition fees too.
So everything's super iffy at this moment, and that really transitions into like engineering, because we can't really meet over the summer like we used to and stuff like that. So really, all of our online things have been really CADing and stuff. So mechanical has been working on CADing, um, programming. We'll get to programming later, but control systems have been working on CADing as well, but CADing circuit boards and stuff for an operator console for our robot. So it's really just we're trying to find creative ways to really engage everybody and make sure our brains are on point for when we are able to return. So about programming, I'm not very like sure about what programming is doing, but Delaney does. So Delaney, what is programming doing currently?
yeah. So last time I checked in, they were getting to working on Vision with a Raspberry Pi this time instead of previous years. We've been using a Limelight, but this year we've decided to see if we can make our own. Partially because a Raspberry Pi would not take up an extra slot on the power distribution panel, but the Limelight does. So then we have less room for motors. So we're experimenting with the Raspberry Pi, and there isn't necessarily much else we could do. Like a lot of the code that we write, it contrary to what the programming lead my freshman year said, was like, oh, you could just program remotely from home. You don't have to touch the robot. Lies. Okay, we were
Throwing some
like,
shade.
I'm sorry, but my entire programming experience was literally sitting on the field and deploying code to the robot and testing that code, because what you really need is to be able to test your code, and you need a robot to test the code on. This year and last year we were working on like getting simulation, like robot simulation to test code, but to some extent you still need the robot to do that. So yeah, but since we can't really, we're working with Vision. Our programming lead has like a Raspberry Pi he set up, and he's testing with Vision targets, and and a tie-in with control systems. You're working on your operator board, right?
Yeah.
One of our members, he built a quick, like a whack-a-mole project where you can, like, what is it, like stress testing the operator board, just like pressing all the buttons.
Pressing all the buttons, making sure everything's connected up. It's pretty
Yeah.
nice, because we want to make sure that our printed circuit board, our PCB, is actually strong. So like in the moment of competition, if you like slap it or something, it doesn't break on itself.
That's good. That's good. I'm sure our drive team would love that.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing I forgot to mention in the intros, I was driver 2019, or sorry, not 2019, 2020, last
Yeah.
year. It was only one competition, which is kind of sad, but it was a fun competition though.
Weren't you also there
Yeah.
for the preseason competitions?
Yeah, and I was like backup driver 2019, which, like,
You
thankfully
were on the drive
I
team.
didn't have
So
to.
you had
Yeah,
experience.
technically. And
You're
then
also a
preseason,
freshman.
preseason competitions though, those were also fun.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, next area, I think we already talked a lot about what imagery, and business is doing. But like, is there anything
Somewhat.
more? Yeah,
So in
is
terms
there
of
any
imagery,
more stuff?
obviously you're listening to this podcast. There's a lot going on with it. Like, I guess some
I don't
editing features. Setting it up was definitely a little hard. This is actually our
I don't know.
second time recording this
They don't
because
have to know that, dude.
the first time it just did not go well. So this is our second time recording this
I'm just
first
saying,
episode.
this
So it's
podcast is pretty nice. I think you guys should subscribe to the channel if
Yeah.
you're watching this on YouTube, or
wherever
follow
else
us
you're
on
watching it.
Spotify or something. Yeah,
Follow us on Instagram.
Instagram, Twitter, everything.
We'll
All
follow you
socials.
back.
We don't know about that.
I was talking to the Robototes, like, team captain, and she's like, if you follow robotics teams, they will follow you back. That's how you rack up those followers.
But we're also
Wow.
following a lot of random people, like a lot of local companies, which isn't bad.
We follow them.
Follow our
It's fine.
sponsors?
Follow
I don't know.
followers.
It's a great thing.
No,
But
I
yeah.
don't think they are our sponsors, but we just follow them.
You know what? It's fine. Okay, we give exposure to a lot of other people, and they give exposure to us. We work in
go.
exposure. There we go.
Exactly. Imagery is also working on recruitment posters and also just posters in general, just talking about our core values and our club vision, since we can also show that to freshmen so that they understand it. So they're working on that. And then they're obviously working on a curriculum, which all the sub-teams are doing, and the task list, which is just a list of things that then they'll need to do later on. Some sub-teams still need to work on that, but we'll get there. Besides that, there's a lot of work being put in the podcast and posters, and then Meg's doing a lot, and his sub-team.
Yeah. So.
And then I'll talk
go
about
on.
business too. No longer business development. Business is just working on seeing how they could continue outreach, since obviously you can't attend these fairs or go to school nights since there won't be school, or school will be virtual. So we'll have to figure out how we're going to do it virtually and still have the same impact or somewhat of the same impact. They're also taking a look at, they're starting grants and taking a look at how they want to approach that this year. And then again, the curriculum and task list.
Yeah. So yeah, that's an overview of what all of our sub teams are working on.
Nikhil, there's one more branch. The competition branch.
The it's new this year. My bad. but yeah, it's new this year. I'm not sure what's going on with it, but do you guys know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so the competition, the idea with it is that they would administer just ensuring that we approach each of the awards and that they'd ensure that some of the bigger tasks do get done because normally it would be placed on admin, but since admin is so busy making sure everything goes smoothly, ensuring it verifies that everything's going well, they face the problem. And so competition is here to help out the competition branch. And the competition branch is a little different from the other subteams because they don't necessarily have a sub team. It's just a branch and then two leads, which are the try wait, what are the scouting lead
They're
and
just
the
the
safety lead.
yeah. So
Yeah,
we do have the competition branch leads, and then we have scouting and safety, which are, I mean, scouting is definitely related to competition. Safety should not just be for competitions. So we have our
it's
safety lead.
everywhere.
He's currently figuring out how to make Ivanhoe or our space more safe, even if we don't go back there this year. But whenever we do go back, making it more safe.
It's gonna be more safe. Yes.
exactly. Also, since we have to take precautions against the pandemic stuff like that. In
Yeah.
terms of scouting, um, our scouting lead is working on an app for scouting, and he's working with some programmers to finish that. And then the competition leads are just looking into each of the awards and figuring out how we would want to approach them.
Yeah.
Basically making sure we get ready. Everything that we do at a competition, everything that we need for a competition, we make sure it gets done. For example, we have T-shirts. They make sure that the T-shirts exist, but they're not necessarily the ones who design the T-shirts. That's still up to imagery. So there is quite a bit of overlap.
Yeah.
But
But anyway, like we're a united club, so there is gonna be a lot of overlap because we help each other doing a lot of stuff like control systems and
interdependence.
programming.
Yeah, interdependence, our
Interdependence.
core value.
It is a core value, and yeah, and that's what we see in the practicality. It's not like we just have it on there. It's what we do all the time. Interdependence on each other.
Exactly.
But yeah.
It's always there. It's always been
So
there.
yeah. So now we actually finished talking about all the sub teams and all of our branches. So what's our future plans gonna look like? Not like only for the club, but for the podcast as well. So
Where do you
I
want?
I know what we're gonna be talking about for the podcast. We can, but for the club. So what is it for the club? You
Right.
guys are admin.
All right. So I guess we'll start off by talking. I guess this is something that we're already doing is we have club activities. So we start off with the meetings for an hour. We just play games together, and that's been really fun. I know we're going to continue that. Normally we'd have like potlucks or just we'd meet up. Obviously, we can't do that anymore. So we're trying to figure out how we would want to do that. And we had a leadership meeting with the whole club on Friday where we talked about how we could have online movie nights, virtual movie nights, and then cooking challenges and stuff like that. So right now, I think admin wants to figure out how we want to do that and implement that since we can't necessarily have the same club bonding events as we usually could have. We can reach out to more people, but it might not have the same effect. But again, we want to use this opportunity to the best we can.
Yeah. And I know on like for the robot side, we really want to improve our robot, really get those, really finesse it. So all of those mistakes or things that we overlooked when we're building the robot for last year's competition, we really finesse it out and really make it really nice for this year's competition. If we are actually going to be doing competition, that is.
Yeah, for engineering, we are looking at having, again, it says sort of in our mission statement, a little more rigorous competition because, like, in our competition in 2020, we actually made Alliance captains, and everyone was like so happy about that. And they realized, wow, this is like something that I want to do more. And so we have been gearing a little more towards like more sort of competitive side. And I was just finding this slightly ironic, as Nikhil, you were mentioning improving the robot. Right, 2020 was the first year they got rid of stop build day, but I don't think anyone expected to spend 2 years on the robot. They thought they'd just
Yeah.
like get an extra month, but
But
no,
we
they
got
got an extra
2 years.
year.
Year because
We
of
got
stop
an extra
there.
year.
Yeah.
Nice.
Um,
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Future
and
plans for the pod. Oh yeah, you're saying?
oh, I was just gonna say that connects back to supportive and spirited competition from our club vision, and how we're not gonna be. We originally had rigorous competition, but that really didn't highlight what we wanted. We still want to be a competitive team, but not to the point that it threatens other people to just focus their time on this, right? It's just helping out and just having fun because we're a competitive team
Yeah,
and enjoying that aspect.
I think the way our vice president originally phrased it was like intense competition, but not at the expense of others. Whether it's other teams, like hoping that they would lose, hoping the other alliance loses, or if it's at the expense of our members, right? If they no longer feel like this is a team that they want to be part of, that would not be good.
Yeah.
And then another project is Winter Soul. I'm not sure if that's what it's called. I'm hoping they just call it Interlake Soul Session 2. I think that's the best name, but they can call it whatever they want.
Wait, can I suggest another name?
Sure,
How
sure.
about Isil 2 Electric Boogaloo? I think I'd like that name better.
Electric Boogaloo?
Yeah,
Why?
it's
Okay.
nice.
Okay. I guess they'll consider it. You'll have to tell them, but they can figure out the name. But we're implementing another session of Soul in the winter because we have winter break for a week and it's probably going to be virtual and we can still have more impact. And we're hoping we can set it up just like we had summer, probably even more successful. I know we're changing the curriculum a little bit so that it's more advanced in some aspects. I don't know about the details too much, but I know that we do want to implement that and they're working and meeting up every Saturday again for that.
Yeah. We have a lot of projects for the future.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true.
We're very
Yeah,
busy.
and another project that's gonna extend into the future is the podcast.
There
So
we go.
what's really our effort with the podcast? Well, first of all, it might get a little bit stale if it's like only Saints Robotics people. So we're opening up to you guys. If you want to represent your team on the podcast, go to our email at Robotics Assemble podcast at SaintsRobotics.com and just shoot us up an email saying, hey, I am from blah 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 team, or like set this team, and I want to be part of the podcast. I want to talk about what we're doing and stuff. And yeah, and we'll shoot you up probably a response email, and then we can set something up. It'll be a very nice thing. We're opening up to the community, so we together as a community of robotics dwellers are assembled together under the podcast. So yeah, that is, I think, our future plans. And it doesn't have to be robotics. We can have like professionals or like
alumni, mentors, anyone
Yeah.
from the first community, professionals, as you said. We're not
Really
limiting it to other teams.
robotic. Yeah, it's
just
really to
anyone who's
anybody.
involved. Exactly.
Anyone involved in like any STEAM activity, sure, really works.
And
We
if
could
you
get
want
them
to
on.
sponsor a podcast, you can also email us. I'm just putting it
Yeah.
out there.
You can sponsor us too at the same email. I won't say it again because I'll probably mess it up.
I'll try. Wait, I messed it up already. Delaney,
No,
your
it was
turn.
right. It was
Wait.
right.
Oh,
My
wait,
turn?
I was right. Robotics
You were-
Assemble
Yeah.
podcast at SaintsRobotics.com. There we
Yeah.
go.
Yay,
That's
there
correct.
we go.
I don't know what I was about to say. But yeah, at least I got it right the second time.
Yeah.
But yeah, feel free to shoot us an email, and hopefully in the future, probably by the next podcast, we'll start having mentors or alumni, taking one guest at a time, and we'll approach it like that.
Yeah, and also very important notice: buy our merch. It's kind of nice. All right,
Nikki,
it's
look
at
at the camera and say it.
saintsrobotics.com. SaintsRobotics.com, everybody. Buy the merch right now. Right after you click off this video, buy the merch.
You mean right after they click subscribe?
Yeah, after
There we
they
go.
click subscribe
I see.
or follow or whatever thing you're on, you're gonna go and you're gonna buy our merch. Upvote, yeah.
Upvote on Reddit.
So technically, we have a couple more minutes, and I think we went through everything that we were going to talk about. So now we're going to have a surprise news segment. So I just want to know you guys' thoughts about some robotics things. So, have you guys heard of Boston Dynamics?
I have heard of it.
Sounds
Didn't they make
slightly
the
familiar.
the dog robot?
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. We're going
Oh.
to talk about Spot the robot dog. What are you guys' thoughts about? Wow,
It's really
that's
pretty.
a really nice robot.
I just wish it had a head, but oh wait, never mind. It has an arm up there. I remember reading about this earlier.
Yeah, so Spot the robot is a really epic robot in my opinion. It's about $100,000. So technically, Can we buy? Is that in the budget?
It's not.
Maybe next year. Maybe next year. I
all
think
right, all right.
I think
Business will have
our
to do a bunch of grants and
Yeah.
sponsors.
yeah,
Yeah, and then
maybe not this year.
it's a really insane robot because you can program it, and there's like a controller that you can move around everywhere, and you can attach anything on top of it. You can attach a lot of stuff on top of it, so like it can do a lot of stuff. Like they gave some examples such as like public safety, healthcare, movies. You can put a camera on that thing. It's there, mining, electric utility. There's a lot of things, and that is like really the future of robotics, and like making something so accessible for so many things. And that's what I like about robotics, and that's what I like about our team.
I mean, eventually, over time, Spot would be cheaper, right?
Yeah,
Just
Spot would be
that's
cheaper.
how.
Maybe next year it's in our budget.
Maybe next year it'll
I
be
don't think
cheaper.
that's how it works, but we can imagine.
Yes.
Yeah,
Should be our
I can
mascot.
imagine like 100 years down the line, everyone has a dog, but it's Spot the robot dog.
It's Spot the robot dog, and it's
There we go.
really, really cool. So yeah, that is just like a segment that I made up on the spot of news in the robotics industry and robotics universe. So yeah, that's gonna be the conclusion of our podcast.
I guess another additional thing is if you have things you want us to talk about during these podcasts, you can also email us at Delaney Your Turn.
Robotics Assemble podcast at SaintsRobotics.com.
There we go.
Yeah,
We've all done it
first
once.
try. Yeah. So yeah, it can be anything. Like a topic, you can just email us a topic, or you can email us like memes or something that we'll react to very poorly, but we will.
We will.
Yeah, so that concludes our podcast for today. Any last final words, guys, before we sign off?
Do you want to end off by saying robotics break?
We can try.
We can try.
Maybe our producers can try to
Edit
fix
it.
the audio after we
No.
horribly fail.
You should leave it exactly as it comes out. I think.
All right.
That'll
It's
be
going to
more
be
fair.
very jumbled up, by the way.
All right, then I will all see you in the next episode with Nikhil.
Yeah.
All right.
See you guys
ready?
next week.
3,
All right.
2,
2,
1.
1.
Robotics.
Robotics
break.
break. All right. See you guys next time. Bye.